Nick Reiner has been formally charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in connection with the apparent stabbing deaths of his parents, renowned director Rob Reiner and photographer and producer Michelle Singer Reiner, who were found dead in their Los Angeles home back on December 14th. What we haven't discussed yet are
the industry feels frozen right now, and it hasn't felt like this in decades. Not since the time when old legends ruled Hollywood has there been such a cold, uncomfortable silence. This isn't just shock or sadness. It's a deep chill spreading through every studio, every set, and every closed-door meeting. When the first news came out about that quiet home in Brentwood, insiders expected the usual routine, a clean statement, carefully chosen PR words, and then complete silence. But this time, everything changed overnight, and the normal playbook fell apart.
defenses, we have to go through what we know right now. Like, for example, it has been reported that the death certificates for this couple indicate that they died just within minutes of sustaining, quote, multiple sharp force injuries inflicted.
Out of nowhere, Tom Cruise stepped forward on his own. No handlers, no delays, no prepared talking points. He pushed through his packed schedule and spoke anyway, and that shocked everyone. This wasn't a calculated move. It was personal, raw, and real. The most private man in Hollywood suddenly broke his own rules, and it hit like thunder. He didn't send a spokesperson or wait for cameras to find him. He spoke directly because, as he told those close to him, the truth mattered. What happened with Rob and Michelle Reiner was something he felt he owed to a man who shaped his career. What Tom shared quietly with trusted colleagues revealed a much deeper story than early reports suggested. If you remember the early 90s, you know what Tom and Rob built together, a few good men. But Tom isn't talking about awards or box office numbers. He's talking about Rob Reiner as a mentor and protector. He described a man who carried a heavy emotional burden about his son Nick for years, mostly in silence. This isn't Hollywood gossip, and everyone knows it. The whispers aren't playful, and the silence isn't polite. It's heavy, uncomfortable, and impossible to ignore. People close to Tom say his voice has changed. The usual unstoppable energy is gone, replaced by something distant and weighed down. It's as if everything he learned hit him at once and aged him overnight. This isn't about losing a legendary filmmaker. It's about watching a family he's known for decades quietly fall apart in real time. On December 14th, Tom was in a late production meeting when his phone buzzed. The call came from a longtime law enforcement contact he trusted. The moment the call connected, everything shifted. 2 names were spoken, Rob and Michelle, then silence. Tom froze. He didn't speak for several minutes, just stared out at the glowing city skyline. The official report called it a domestic incident with serious injuries, but insiders say that barely touched what actually happened. Tom's story turns darker because he isn't just talking about the event itself, he's talking about what led up to it. He knew tensions between Nick and his parents had been building for months. During a private dinner earlier this year, Rob grew unusually quiet when the conversation turned to his children. For a man known for filling every room, that silence stood out. Those close to the family believe it was a warning nobody fully understood. Tom recalls Rob saying the cycle was getting harder to break. He wasn't speaking casually, he meant years of struggle, resentment, and emotional strain. This wasn't youthful rebellion anymore. It had become something heavier and more complicated. What haunts Tom most is realizing this didn't come out of nowhere. It was the result of months, maybe years of pressure behind closed doors. Rob and Michelle tried to fix things with love alone. Without boundaries, love wasn't enough. That realization hurt the most. Tom feels Hollywood respected the Reiners' privacy so deeply that nobody stepped in or asked uncomfortable questions when it still might have mattered. Even a short message Rob once sent him now feels different. What once seemed reflective now feels like a quiet warning. Then came the moment nobody could process: Nick Reiner's arrest. The charges stunned Hollywood and sent shockwaves through the industry. Tom pointed out the cruel irony. The man behind cinema's most famous courtroom line was now facing an unbearable truth inside his own home.
Investigators stayed tight-lipped, but through Tom's private conversations, a much more unsettling picture is emerging. This wasn't random or chaotic. There were no signs of intrusion, theft, or outside interference. It was deeply personal, targeted, and devastatingly intimate. Tom has been clear about one thing: he isn't buying a polished narrative. While the defense focuses on pressure and mental health, Tom says Rob Reiner would have wanted honesty over excuses, accountability over spin, no matter how painful. What breaks him most is Michelle. She was the rhythm, the balance, the steady force that made everything work. Her absence is being felt everywhere. What hit Tom hardest wasn't just Rob, but Michelle, the quiet balance behind Rob's brilliance. Learning she was hurt with the same intensity turned tragedy into something that felt like pure betrayal. Michelle had been the peacekeeper for years, stepping in whenever things between Nick and his father got heated. She protected Rob's fragile health and absorbed stress so he wouldn't have to. The fact that she was caught in the same violent act tells Tom this wasn't accidental or spontaneous. In his mind, it was deliberate, calculated, and deeply unsettling. That's why he believes the January 7th trial will be one of the most emotional legal moments the state has ever seen. Hollywood's silence wasn't just about respect, it was fear. Fear of admitting how close to home this really hit, and how easily it could have happened to anyone behind those gates. Tom is pushing Hollywood to rethink how it handles private family crises, the ones quietly buried under fame, money, and image control. He's been in close contact with Rob and Michelle's sons, Roy and Jake Reiner, who are still barely functioning, trying to process how their brother ended up behind bars. For Tom, this goes far beyond loss. The idea that money, legacy, and influence can protect anyone has shattered completely. Even Hollywood's most respected figures couldn't escape danger growing quietly inside their own home. Tom's last conversation with Rob is haunting him most. They were discussing a retrospective project meant to celebrate Rob's career. Rob said something that now terrifies Tom. The stories we tell on screen are easy because we control the ending. Real life is the only script that scares me. At the time, it sounded reflective. Now, it feels like a warning. By the next morning, Tom understood exactly what Rob meant. He's vowed to be present at the trial, not as a spectator, but to stand up for his mentor's legacy. He doesn't want Rob's name buried under headlines about his son. What makes it even heavier is what investigators later confirmed. Before Nick Reiner was arrested, he reportedly moved through Los Angeles for hours while the house stayed silent. That image still chills Tom. This wasn't impulsive or panic-driven. Whoever walked away that night left calmly. When Tom says Hollywood is shaken, he means it. Evidence exists that hasn't even been shown in court yet. Messages, recordings, signs that Nick had been pulling away from his family long before anyone noticed. To the public, this might seem like another headline. To Tom, it marks the end of an era. That's why he's speaking now. Once the trial begins, lawyers and media noise will shape the story. Tom wants the truth on record before that happens. He believes Rob and Michelle weren't victims of chance. They were victims of love without limits. The same unconditional support they gave their son became the thing that turned against them. Tom says that's the brutal lesson. The quiet struggles behind Hollywood's polished image are often the most dangerous. When January arrives, the world will see details impossible to ignore. The injuries weren't random. They showed intensity, built-up resentment, and years of emotional pressure finally snapping. Investigators uncovered communications that change everything. Messages showing disturbing patterns of control, pressure, and manipulation aimed at Rob and Michelle. If these messages appear in court, the defense will face a serious uphill battle. For Tom, this isn't about headlines. It's about losing someone who felt like a spiritual father. It's about realizing that Hollywood, with all its power and polish, may have unknowingly sheltered something deeply broken behind closed doors. Tom didn't break his silence for attention. He did it because he refuses to let Rob Reiner be remembered only through tragedy. This is the man who taught him discipline, compassion, and restraint, a man who shaped him when fame threatened to take over. Tom wants the full emotional truth known because that's the only way he knows how to honor Rob properly. As the January 7th trial approaches, the truth Tom is protecting feels like the last defense of Rob's legacy. Quiet whispers among staff and security paint a chilling picture of what really happened. What they describe isn't just conflict, it's betrayal at the most personal level. Nick was arrested hours later near USC. For Tom, this story is bigger than Hollywood, bigger than fame, and bigger than image control. It's about love, loss, and the terrifying reality that even the most respected figures aren't immune to danger in their own home.